So today I'm standing on the shore of the Kalamazoo River on one of the areas of the original Territorial Road, the original pioneer trail that came across southern Michigan, starting in Detroit, going all the way to St. Joe, and across Calhoun County here in Battle Creek. And we're going to follow it today through our city. So come along and join me. In today's video, I will be using two books primarily as the reference for the source material. The first is History of Calhoun County, Michigan by Washington Gardner, and the other is Tales of Battle Creek by Berenice Bryant Lowe. The book by Mr. Gardner is out of print, and I'm not sure if the same is true for Tales of Battle Creek, but both can be downloaded in PDF form from the Willard Library website for free. In Washington Gardner's book, he covers the history of the Michigan Territory and ultimately Calhoun County. And in that work, he describes that from 1787 to approximately 1790, Michigan was part of the original Northwest Territory. Out of this original Northwest Territory, Ohio had been made a state in 1802, Indiana in 1816, and Illinois followed 2 years later. From 1818 to 1836, the territory of Michigan embraced all of Michigan and all of the territory now known as Wisconsin and Minnesota east of the Mississippi. From 1810 to 1820, the population of the territory nearly doubled. So when the second territorial governor, Lewis Cass, came into office by appointment of President James Madison, the territory was rapidly expanding. In 1819, the territory of Michigan was given the privilege of electing a delegate to Congress. The first was William Woodbridge of Detroit. He was succeeded after one term by Judge Solomon Sibley of the same place. And in following Sibley was a Catholic priest, Father Gabriel Richard, who took his seat on December 8, 1823. Father Richard was born in France and educated for the priesthood. He came to Detroit in 1798, where he built St. Anne's Church. He was popular with all classes of citizens. He was not only a loyal and devoted churchman, but an energetic and public-spirited citizen. He published the first newspaper ever printed in Michigan, was much interested in education, and helped lay the foundation for Michigan State University. While he served but one term in Congress, he proved in Washington, as in Michigan, a useful friend of the new and rapidly developing territory. It was during his term that he secured the first federal appropriation for a road across Michigan's Lower Peninsula from Detroit to Chicago as part of the Territorial Road system. In 1832, he fell victim to cholera and unfortunately never recovered. Father Richard is the only Catholic priest in Michigan that ever served in Congress of the United States. When surveyors set out to establish the Territorial Road, they began by following some of the pre-existing foot trails established by Native Americans. The St. Joseph Trail and the Old Sauk Trail were among the first two that were used to establish the Territorial Road. The route was modified to accommodate not just a footpath, but also those traveling by horseback, as well as being wide enough to accommodate wagons being pulled by oxen and horses. A blog article from the Battle Creek Inquirer in 2016 reported on construction crews finding 24 logs buried perpendicular to the road on Territorial Road. Logs were often used historically to provide structure over soft surfaces and marshlands, often called a corduroy road. According to Tales of Battle Creek, by 1829 and 1830, pioneer landlookers with purchases in mind were coming along this marked route known as the Territorial Road. They were coming on horseback with money in their pouches. Now, not all historians have agreed on the pathway they followed after they reached Marshall on their way to the Gogwak prairie. The Territorial Road most definitely came through downtown Marshall following Michigan Avenue. Even today there is a large stone with a historic plaque commemorating this history in downtown Marshall. The consensus is that the present Michigan Avenue road west from Marshall follows their route. However, east of Battle Creek, a small stream flowed from northeast toward the Kalamazoo River. For 50 years, this valley with high banks, which was 2.5 miles east of the center of the village, was known in town as the Gulf or the Gulch. Pioneers forded this stream and then took the low road circling between two hills by going north and then southwest. This exact road was followed by the railroad surveyors in 1845, so that if you were to walk today the railroad tracks from the East Michigan Avenue Bridge curving past the Kellogg factory along Porter Street, you would be on the first pioneer path. After the Pioneer Trail took that turn, if you were to come down Porter Street and draw almost a straight line down to Newark Street, the first Territorial Road led southwest through the present Post Foods factory, and it continued to what is now Oak Hill Cemetery. Now remember that this is around 1830, and Oak Hill Cemetery was founded in 1844. It may very well be that one of the older roads on the north side of Oak Hill Cemetery is part of the original Territorial Road, which was just incorporated into the platting of the cemetery when it was founded. So the Pioneer Trail continued through this area, meandering downhill to the approximate present South Avenue exit of Oak Hill, roaming through the eastern side of Mount Olivet Cemetery to today's Kenosha Street, and then west to the Kalamazoo River crossing. Geology played a role in the Territorial Road layout as the local east-west crossing of the Kalamazoo River. This was key and very important. It was a place that was no wider or narrower than average, but it was an obviously well-traveled route long before the surveyors were commissioned to mark this road and create the Territorial Road. Berenice Bryant Lowe mentions that there's no mention that there has ever been discovered of a foundering of horses or oxen or a single accident to a loaded pioneer wagon on this river crossing, so it must have offered a particularly firm footing in this section of the Kalamazoo River. The first report of Michigan's Geological Survey in 1860 gives us this lead by mentioning many outcroppings of Marshall sandstone in the Battle Creek area. The bank near this Kalamazoo River crossing is held high by Marshall sandstone, but the area is now covered by a mill pond and 140 years of silt, so that might be a difficult thing to prove today. Where I was standing in this video, the crossing was on the other side of this overpass bridge, which was inaccessible from this side of the Kenosha Street. After the Territorial Road fords the Kalamazoo River, it picks up with what is known today as present-day Territorial Road. Now, speculation has always been that it follows the full straight line length of Territorial Road. However, there is information in Tales of Battle Creek where Miss Lowe is talking about the earliest Calhoun County atlases. In 1836, it shows that the Territorial Road takes a southwesterly turn from leaving Battle Creek. 1873, you look on this map, it shows that the road is taking a southwesterly turn, and she says that occurred right near Pioneer Street. And that would be logical because it's right after the historic marker for Territorial Road, which can be found heading west on Territorial Road right before the intersection of Pioneer Street. Following Pioneer Street south and then taking a southwesterly direction to Columbia Avenue, then you would have to kind of imagine the road going in that direction, as it's been built over by neighborhoods and plats, and no remnants of that section between the end of Pioneer Street and Columbia Avenue exist anymore. However, one could speculate that portions of Circle Drive, as well as Columbia Avenue, were also part of the original Pioneer route. And that's what's left as part of our city street system today. If you follow 24th Street south from Columbia Avenue, you will find your car taking one curve after another for a generous mile, still circling swamps and later low hills, which was what it was back in the day. You're following the old Pioneer Road. It cut across a corner of Leroy Township to reach Climax Prairie in Kalamazoo County. This was the main highway through Calhoun County to the west. The Territorial Road was one of three great east to west routes in the pioneer days. The Territorial Road went from Detroit to St. Joseph, Michigan, crossing the rich lands of what was called the second tier of counties. And the road was approved in 1829. You can find historic markers for it in several counties across Michigan. The Michigan historic marker is in Paw Paw over in Van Buren County. In many counties across southern Michigan, it follows Michigan Avenue. In Calhoun County, however, Territorial Road indicates the trail through the Gogwak Prairie because it was, shortly after its survey, designated as one of the two military roads to be used by soldiers to get from Fort Wayne in Detroit to Fort Dearborn in Chicago. By 1834, the settlement that became the village of Battle Creek was developing. After the pioneers came through what is present-day Oak Hill Cemetery, they could turn northward, taking an Indian trail that is now South Avenue to the heart of the village. Over time, pioneers developed roadways to Bedford and Hastings, as well as expanded the routes into the city of Battle Creek. This photo shows what downtown Battle Creek was like. This was Jefferson Avenue, which is now Capitol Avenue, in 1869. Well, that's going to wrap up this video on tracing the path of the Territorial Road and the Pioneer Trail through the city of Battle Creek as it crossed through southwest Michigan. If you liked today's video, please take a minute to give me a like, leave me a comment, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.